Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, everyone in the franchise world. My name is Paul Segreto, and this is Franchise Today. Actually, a relaunch of Franchise Today as we return with a new format and a new co-host. And before we go any further, I would like to introduce our new co-host and partner with the show, Stan Friedman. Stan, how are you today?
I'm doing great, Paul. How are you?
Absolutely great. This is just a fantastic time for a Franchise Today, and I know our listening audience has been very anxiously awaiting the relaunch of Franchise Today as we go into, or actually just ahead of our 7th year in business, and I couldn't be happier to have somebody like yourself join me as co-host. So over the, I don't know, Stan, do we still have you there? Hello, Stan? Yes.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, all of a sudden
we had a little technical glitch, and I had to back away from the laptop and dial in, so here I am.
Okay, not a problem. I was just saying that I couldn't be happier for your involvement in Franchise Today as our co-host and very well-respected partner of mine on this show, because we do have similar philosophies and we do want to take this show to new levels. I mean, especially as we're entering our 7th year, which is kind of hard to believe. And, you know, Stan, why don't you give our listening audience some of your background as it goes towards, you know, radio, and I know just recently you had a podcast called Sensible Franchising, and I think as we talked about, this show is going to be about sustainable franchises and sensible franchising, and it's kind of a combination of the two. So why don't we listen to your philosophy on this, and then I'll chime in accordingly.
Well, I'll do that happily, Paul, but first I just wanted to back up because I must have had a misconnect or a disconnect. Did you say we had similar philosophies and that we're not doing this like Hannity and Combs?
Yeah, we do have similar philosophies, without a doubt.
And it's a good thing, or we probably wouldn't be doing this. We can leave Hannity and Combs to the TV world, but we do share some very strong fundamental common denominators when it comes to how franchising should be done. And you know, to go back to what you suggested earlier, I did do a podcast that was called Sensible Franchising, and I'm happy and proud to weave the best parts of what I was trying to accomplish with that vehicle into Franchise Today, and bringing the combination of our points of view together in this format and weekly on this program is going to be a ton of fun. Long before franchising, I had a career it included some fun years in radio, in terrestrial radio. Radio's come a long way since then, and podcasting, no doubt, has become a vehicle of the future, where terrestrial radio has kind of been sliding backward in the other direction, along with other conventional old school things like TV. But in this forum, I think we're going to have a tremendous amount of opportunity to bring some ideas and thinking to those that can be consumers of what it takes to put sustainable growth into the franchise business model, and help bring to the platform guests that share similar points of view. And they don't necessarily have to follow any format in terms of whether they're emerging or legacy franchisors, or even suppliers, or those that have interests in bringing value to the franchise community from any point of view, as long as what they do and what they bring deals with real unit economics for franchisees, real economic and sustainable growth for both the Z and the ZOR. And in this problematic environment, and this very troubling environment that we as a business model find ourselves in, with government regulation and labor problems and attacks coming to the business model from almost every direction, I think our format is going to provide a breath of fresh air where we're not fighting, arguing, pointing fingers, yelling and screaming past each other, but we're actually talking about the positive things, the thousands of good things that go on every day inside of franchise organizations all over the globe. And for every one of those problem issues that arise. Few people spend much time talking about the things that work, and that's kind of where I think we can put our collective energies together and bring the audience some nuggets every week, as our friend Brian Schnell would call them, and bring some real take-home value to the hour that our listeners spend with us.
Absolutely, and to that end, like any new enterprise, and we're looking at Franchise Today as a relaunch in essence. With our partnership, it is like a new enterprise. So I'd like to give some of our listening audience some overview on what they can expect with respect to our structure. Of course, we're still on the Blog Talk Radio platform at blogtalkradio.com/Franchise Today. Of course, we have a Facebook page, facebook.com/Franchise Today as well. Tweeting will come through our own individual Twitter accounts. So it'll be at Paul Segreto and at Stan Friedman. You'll see more activity with respect to the show and the content from the show on LinkedIn, as well as on my blog, and I'm sure yours as well, Stan. Also, proud to announce, and I was hoping to have it ready for today's show, we will be launching a new website that'll be specific to Franchise Today. So our listening audience could come back to the website whenever they so desire and be able to listen to different shows on demand. And there's, some 250 shows that are actually right now housed on Blog Talk Radio that there'll also be links to on the website. In addition to that, it will also have a blog attached to the website, and the long-term goal is to transcribe some of the content and move it into that blog section of the website. So those of you that feel comfortable just reading as opposed to listening, you'll be able to read online, and there will also be a link to the various shows. My intent also is to have more detailed biographies and social media information from our many, many guests. So that'll be a great way to be able to further understand where our guests are coming from, both from their philosophy within franchising, as well as their outlook on franchising. There's so much that social media can tell us today. And then taking it even further, long term, will be an extension of that content potentially into some video, where my long-term goal is to take some of the content and put some slides ahead of it, turn it into short video clips that we feel can really help franchisors of all sizes, as Stan said, regardless if you're an emerging brand or a legacy brand, or maybe even an individual just exploring franchising for their business model for the first time. Obviously there's a great deal of information that is already out there and will continue to grow. One of the things, Stan, that really motivated me, in addition to your motivation, because you kept saying, Segreto, come on, we need to get off the ball here and get this show back up and running. And then, of course, we came to a meeting of the minds and said, well, after the summer, as franchising really kicks back into high gear after Labor Day, we knew we were going to work towards that. But, some additional motivation was I was in San Antonio with a fairly new client of Franchise Foundry called Over the Top Cake Supplies, and it's a children's entertainment and education franchise in San Antonio. And I met the founder's son, I think 13 or 14 years old, and he heard my voice and he turns to his dad and he says, "Hey, Dad, is that the guy's voice from Franchise Today?" And it really made me chuckle, but it also made me realize how great the content has been, and it's certainly not of my doing. It's all the tremendous guests that have dedicated their time and have committed to dedicating more time in the future. And it turns out that Kevin Johnson, the founder of Over the Top, literally listened to every one of the shows that have ever been on Franchise Today in his quest to learn all he can about becoming a franchisor. And that was even confirmed further by his partner as we got in the car to go to lunch, and the radio wasn't on. And he said, "Oh, thank God we're not listening to Franchise Today, because every time I get in the car, it's on." So, and that just kind of brings, chills to me and makes me feel proud that we're really doing something good, and now taking it to a new level, and all Stan's wisdom and experience being added into the mix. I just see this going to great heights and to new levels, and I appreciate your willingness to come on board, Stan. I really think that 1 and 1 definitely is going to add up to a lot more than 2 between us.
Well, that's franchising, and it's, with all the niceties about my wisdom, it's really not me or you. Any conference, any summit, any gathering that I've ever participated in, the value proposition of those events when you bring people of a like mind together in a similar business model isn't really, as much as you get out of what's programmed and what's been prepared by presenters, we all know that the greatest value that we go home with are the connections that we make, the conversations that you've got or have on breaks or in the evening meals or at a bar in the evening at a cocktail hour. It's all of that unprogrammed, unscheduled, even unformatted, if you will, conversation that you'd otherwise not have had the opportunity to participate in. And you can't plan for it because you don't know who you're going to meet, and you don't know who you're going to be motivated by something you may have heard during part of the planned portion of the day. Something hit you that a speaker spoke about. It triggers an introduction that you make of yourself to them a little bit later in unscheduled time, and that leads to more conversation, which takes you to, again, what I always call the 1.2 or 3 degrees of separation in franchising. That might be the 6 degrees of separation in other worlds, but in ours, you find connections and make connections through the networking, and through those conversations and discussions come the greatest take-home values all the time. I think that with what we're going to bring here to every week's podcast is going to be very similar, in that we're going to have discussions with our guests as part of the program, and those discussions may have some bullet points that were prepared and planned, but out of that comes conversation that leads to another discovery about something you didn't know, and that leads to a phone call to somebody who said something that you never would have heard from had it not been for that one opportunity to do so. So for me, Paul, this is going to just be a tremendous body of work that we're going to continue to build on by bringing people together that share, the love of franchising and the business model in common, and they share the desire for sustainable growth and for doing things sensibly and properly. And from that, as a common baseline, like-minded people will find a whole lot more to connect about, and this vehicle for providing them the opportunity to do so is going to make me as proud as it will you to be a part of.
Very well stated. And just to reiterate what Stan had mentioned before, Franchise Today is for, basically anybody in franchising, whether you're an emerging brand, whether you're a legacy brand, whether you're a supplier or a service provider to the franchise community, franchise attorneys, individuals that are interested in taking their business to new heights by utilizing franchising as their expansion and growth model, and of course, also everybody in the international sectors of franchising. As we were going through the stats, I was really amazed and quite excited, Stan, that, in the last, year of Franchise Today being up and running, and as I said at the beginning of the show, we were on hiatus for always had over 165,000 listens to the show, obviously mostly on demand as people are relaxing over the weekend or driving or on travel assignment. And what's really interesting about that, even as we went through our hiatus and reformatting the show, every week I would see, 100, 200, 400 people listening to our on-demand shows. And many were doing it even within the time slot that Franchise Today had been in, and they had grown accustomed. So they actually built it into their weekly schedule to listen. And again, when I look at information like that, I get chills and about how much we are positively affecting people in franchising. And of course, I can never thank enough all those guests, including yourself, Stan, that have been on previous shows, and we continue to see, those shows go up in listenership, and especially the various series that we had over the years, such as the Franchise Finance series, where we've had Daryl Johnson on, where we've had Ron Feldman on, and a host of other franchise financial people. In addition, the legal series, which we will continue with moving forward. We've done 5 legal series. I think it's a total of about 20 segments on franchising, and the likes of, Lane Fisher and Lee Plave and Warren Lee Lewis and Jonathan Redgrave, and a lot of very, very smart people in the legal world giving of their time for the shows, and somebody like Lane that's actually been on 4 times, as well as Lee. When you think about what consulting fees are with these high-powered attorneys, and yet you have an opportunity to listen to an hour or 2 or 3 or 4 of these people, I mean, that's just a tremendous amount of information and wisdom about franchising that is being given as a service, and I really appreciate that. And then, of course, there's been some other series that we've done about franchise principles, and we did an interesting series a while back where it was 4 or 5 or 6 segments of franchising in contiguous order, and it really worked well together because people were able to download that and utilize it, as they've told me, for internal training in their organizations. All that being said, I believe, Stan, what we've got coming up is really going to even take that to a new level. So with that in mind, if you would, why don't you run through what the structure is going to be moving forward so everybody has an idea of what to expect.
Great segue, Paul, because as you're sitting there talking about those series of legal programs and financing programs, and heard the word format a couple of times, and you laid out the roadmap for the social media and how all this is going to work on the other end for pushing this information out, I sat here and was thinking to myself, so Paul, do you think it might be a good idea for us to talk about the format, how we're going to set the program up each week? And I think that's going to be something of a difference between how you structured Franchise Today in the past and how we're going to carry it forward. But I think what it's going to also do is ensure that no matter who tunes in, be it live or pulling down the podcast for listening on demand, the things that everyone can count on every week will be that there's going to be a format to the presentation of the hour each week, and we're breaking it down into 3 basic categories. We're going to call the beginning of the show the front of the house, and the front of the house is going to have a couple or 3 different sections that comprise the front of the house. We'll begin each week with just industry news updates, things that are going on in the world of political and government relation updates, which, there's no shortage of those. We could probably fill the hour with as many different fronts as IFA is trying to do battle on. But bringing some capsuled updates on the threat alerts and what's going on in that realm, talking about potentially new development deals that are out there and new franchise offerings. All of that will be the opening section of the front of the house, and we're going to call that aptly the disclosure section. And so we'll be trying to give as much full disclosure as we can based on the news of the preceding week, and just bring some up-to-date snapshots on some of those headlines in the news. We'll take that into the next section in front of the house, which is going to be our item 19. And here we're going to just talk about any reported company earnings that are out for that week. Anything financial, anything that's in the financial realm of the franchising world will be featured as part of our weekly item 19 report. And then from there, we're just going to move right through full disclosure to item 20 and bring some updates on people news, who's moving around, who's changed shirts, and who amongst the world of those that we've known for years in our networks have made some adjustments to their career path, talk about those people issues, any new development deals that we hear of out there. All of that will be part of the Item 20. That kind of is going to take the first 15, 20 minutes of the broadcast each week, and it's going to lead us right into our weekly guest interview. And each week, our guests, again, may come from the world of franchising, as in franchisors or executives of franchise concepts that may be on the development side, may be on the ops or support legal side. But again, it's going to be somebody whose focus is on sustainable growth and bringing unit economics to the franchisees from brands that are doing what they do right, because we all know that nothing in franchising succeeds like successful franchisees. So we'll have a 30-minute guest interview, and in that 30-minute interview, you can count on pretty much the same thing being asked on a weekly basis. We're going to ask about some of the things that brought that concept, if it's the franchisor that week, what brought that concept to reality? How did you paint the canvas that was once a dream and turn it into something that proved concept enough that you could take this product or service to market and franchise it? And who is the perfect person to be considered as a franchisee in whatever that brand's concept may be offering? And what's in it for them? How does their life look as a franchisee? And, where is the vision of the franchisor going from here? What do you see over the horizon 1, 3, 5 years out, both for you and for the franchisees that have hitched their wagons to that franchisor's engine? And again, if it's not a Zor, it's going to be somebody who's bringing value or service to franchise concepts that are putting sustainable growth into play every day. And so we'll be asking similar questions of those guests that will help us better understand their business models and how it is they serve the franchising world. We'll back out of the show with what we'll call the back of the house. And in the back of the house, we'll just take a quick snapshot and look at who's upcoming in the weeks ahead. Who do we have already lined up as future guests? What are the upcoming events that are on the horizon for the next few weeks? And any and all forward-looking views of important dates in franchising that are also coming up on the horizon. And that's going to be a very quick moving hour, Paul, between the two of us on the shows we do together. And we may even give each other a break every here and there. And one of us take the helm and fly solo for that week. But each week, I think that's pretty much what listeners can look forward to hearing.
That's an excellent summary of the structure of the show. And to that end, I'm excited to announce next week's guest, which will be Mark Liston, president of the Glass Doctor of the Dwyer Group. And as Stan and I talked about sustainable, sensible franchising with all that's been going on from a positive sense in the Dwyer Group with their acquisitions, and of course they're continuing to build upon a very well-established structure, we reached out to the Dwyer Group, and Mark Liston very generously agreed, as they have just an unbelievable busy schedule, but he was excited to actually be back on the show. So that'll be next Wednesday, as all of our shows will be at 11 a.m. Central Time and 12 p.m. Eastern Time on Wednesdays moving forward. And then, of course, also, Stan, we both have a fairly busy travel schedule coming up, and we have the Springboard Emerging Franchise Summit next week in Philadelphia, which should be exciting, put on by Fisher Zucker and Entrepreneur Magazine and Fishman Public Relations. That's going to be a great event, as it has for the last few years. And then, of course, we have what used to be called the Public Affairs Conference for the IFA, and for some reason I just can't think of what the new name of it is.
It's FAN, the Franchise Action Network.
That's right, Franchise Action Network in Washington, D.C. So that should be a good event. And then, of course, we start getting into some deep dives into franchise leadership and development with the Leadership and Development Conference by Franchise Update. We have the Franchise Finance and Development Show by Franchise Times with the West Coast Franchise Expo. And we'll be reporting on a lot of events as they get closer and be able to really tie it all in as franchising moves into the end of the year and sets a foundation for the new year. I also want to mention that, you know, it does take a lot to put on this show on a regular basis. And I know my company, Franchise Foundry, and Stan's company, FRM Solutions, both have given us tremendous support and are proud sponsors of the show moving forward. And it really, really helps when you have, you know, some teammates behind us. I know some of the work that Deb Evans, Franchise Foundry president, has done over the years with her own podcast, Social Geek Radio, Wednesday nights at 7 o'clock Central Time. Stan was just recently a guest on the show with her and co-host Jack Monson from Monalto. I mean, that's been great. Deb has given me a lot of insight into what has been successful for her. So that has actually been a combination of thoughts and a process to where we are today. And, of course, Stan popped out of that show as an interview and had some additional ideas. And we will be implementing all that moving forward. And as Stan said, you know, that's what franchising is all about. It's helping each other, you know, towards some common goals.
Well, all said well, Paul, and I'm looking forward to just taking this and bringing it where it goes. You know, it's going to take us more than us taking it, and that's what's going to make it a tremendous amount of fun. You know, the things that matter most in franchising are that there's fluid, dynamic motion. I've heard so many franchisees complain about, you know, I signed on for this, and then the franchisor made a change, and now it's, you know, evolving in this way, or it's going to that way, and that's not what I thought I bought. And the reality is the market's what changes, and those who move with it are always market-driven and continue to deliver what it is the market is asking for. And I feel like we've got a tremendous responsibility as well as privilege to try to do that at the helm of this broadcast. And while we've put some structure and format around it, I really think that that's just for the beginnings and the framework. The show is going to take on a life of its own. It's going to find its audience, and it's going to find a direction. And we're going to do just like anyone else does. We're going to fasten our seatbelts, and we're going to position ourselves as ready for change, because change is certain, growth is optional. But no matter what we think we've got here, and no matter how we go about bringing it to the market, what it takes on as its own fuel is going to take us for a ride as well.
And to add to that, change certainly creates possibilities and opportunities that we're not even aware of at this point. So I am looking forward to being in that same vehicle with you as we take this ride, Stan. So in closing, because we don't want to keep people too long during their lunch hour listening, and we do appreciate the listening, and I'm sure many will also listen on demand. Do you have any closing comments?
No, my comments, Paul, there are no closing comments. This whole 30 minutes has been an opening comment, and I'm looking forward to kicking it off with not just somebody that I respect and have a great deal of admiration for as a franchisor, but also as a friend, and Mark Liston next week is our first guest together on this new chapter in Franchise Today, and just launching from there forward with nothing but the windshield in front of us.
Well, that is great, and I look forward to it. Next Wednesday, 11 a.m. Central, 12 p.m. Eastern Time. Join Stan and I live on Franchise Today with Mark Liston as our guest, and, of course, to be able to download on demand as well as this show on demand after the show. You'll have to go to blogtalkradio.com/franchise today. Until next week, my name is Paul Segreto, wishing you the best, the very best in this great, great thing we call franchising. And Stan, Franchise Today is out.
Goodbye, everybody.
Hey, I thought that flowed pretty well. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Very good. Okay. Ah. Okay. Well, that's the transparency of it being live, right? You never know. You never know. Right. Yeah, and I thought, I thought we played well off each other. We complimented each other well, and we picked up from each other very, very well. So, all in all, I was very, very pleased, but I knew I would be. Yeah, good. Right, absolutely. Okay. All right, sounds good. All right, sounds good. Thanks. I'll talk to you. Bye-bye. Yeah, and Lorraine, please. Paul Segreto, I just missed her call. Thank you. I'll hold for a moment. Thank you. Yes, please. I'll be at my desk for a little while. Yes, Segreto. Yes, perfect. Hey, any thoughts where you guys are going to eat?
I don't know, somewhere around here because, I already have mine, so I don't know if you know that. So if you don't, I can go wherever, but I want to eat quickly because I'm starving.
All right, so what does that mean?
You want to go to Republic Grill?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if we can get in, but we could try.
Oh, yeah, it is like noon. I guess you and I always go later. Well, last time we only went at 12:30, Dad, and we got sad.
Yeah. All right,
And it is only a Wednesday, so we can.
All right, let's plan on that. All right.
All right.
Okay. This is Paul. Good, Lorraine. How are you? I got your message, and I was kind of confused because we didn't have an appointment set up for tomorrow. And also, I hadn't gotten anything in the mail as of yet. You had said you were going to send out the information to get on the waiting list and the whole nine yards. We haven't received it as of yet. Okay. No, I just need to get that information so I can get with my mom and fill it out, and then we'll go from there. Okay? All right. Thank you very much. Not a problem. All right. Bye-bye.
When you're part of a military family, you understand sacrifice and support. So at American Public University, we honor your dedication by extending our military tuition savings to your extended family. Parents, spouses, legal partners, siblings, and dependents all qualify for APU's preferred military rate of just $250 per credit hour for undergraduate and master's level programs. American Public University. Value for the whole family. Learn more at apu.apus.edu/military.